Good day everyone, especially to our teacher Mr. Melvin D. Bruno, in today's topic entitled Defining and Managing Project Scope Implementation, which our free final practical exam in project management. So let's start for the project scope management. In project management, scope can be referred in two respects: product scope and project scope. Product scope, it is refers to the various functions and features that help in characterizing a product or a service, while a project scope refers to the work that is needed to be done to deliver the product. So, project scope management, it is the total amount of work that must be done in order to deliver a product, service, or the result with the specified functions and features. It includes everything that must go into a project, as well as it defines its success. Managing project scope is primarily concerned with defining and controlling what is and what is not included in the project. So, project scope management, it is the one of the major knowledge areas of the project management framework, where the work required for the successful delivery of project and services, which is calculated. With the unnecessary work, uh, you will be able to focus more on the relevant tasks and prevent the wastage of work, effort, time, and cost. So, with this project scope management, it helps to determine and documenting the list of all the project goals, the tasks, the deadlines, and budget as part of the planning process to do a project. Next is when we say scope, it refers to the all work involved in creating the products of the project and the processes used to create them. So, a project scope management includes the processes involved in defining and controlling what is or not included in a project. Project scope management will depend on two aspects, which are nature of project objectives and the definability of the project objectives. Next is we should know the benefits of scope management. Scope management, it helps in cutting down project cost and time by prioritizing and reducing the work. It validates the add-on work request by performing a quantitative analysis on them. It helps in avoiding the FICA requirements request. With proper scope management, there are very fewer chances that you overrun your project budget. It also ensures that project development is on track and is heading towards the agreed goal. It helps also the project managers to distribute the work equally among the team members and boost up the team enthusiasm. Next is project scope management processes. The entire knowledge area of project scope management is further divided into smaller processes that act as access points for the project manager to have better control over the project. So, with this, they ensure that a particular project includes all the work relevant or appropriate to achieve the project's objectives. Its primary aim is to control what is and is not involved in the project. So, each of these processes forms an integral part of project scope management and contributes toward project success. These processes are the plan scope management, define scope, validate scope, collect requirements, create WBS, and control scope. So next is scope planning. When we say scope planning, it decides how the scope will defined, verified, and controlled. Scope planning, it is a project management process that defines boundaries and deliverables. The final main category includes a statement of scope, a definition of assumptions and constraints, and other planning outputs and historical information. So under scope planning, we will show the defining the scope. Next, project requirements, scope inputs, requirements traceability matrix, work breakdown structure or the WBS, and the scope statement. So it explains that scope planning it is establishes control factors that can be used to address elements that result in changes during the life cycle of the project. Project scope is critical because without it, project managers would have no clue what time, cost, or labor was involved in a project. And scope planning is the very first thing you do to manage your scope. Project scope planning is concerned with the definition of all the work needed in the project. Next is project scope definition. When we say project scope, it is the detailed description of the project work necessary to meet the requirements of the stakeholders. It obviously addresses what is included. However, by addressing what is excluded can significantly improve the clarity of the required work. There are two types of scope, which are product scope and project scope. So, product scope, it is the subset of project scope. It is the number of different items to your company that offers for sale. Your business goals usually determine the scope of products you carry. So, you may run a successful business based on a single product strategy or offer a much deeper line of products to serve a wider range of customers. While project scope it includes the project scope and describes all the other work required to be completed by the project. So, project scope it is a detailed outline of all aspects of a project, includes all related activities, resources, timelines, and as well as the project boundaries of the project. Next is how to create a project scope. When creating a project scope, we need to follow the steps, which are step 1 develop management plan, step 2 identify requirements, step 3 define products, step 4 create scope baseline, step 5 execute and measure performance, step 6 control scope, step 7 transfer scope. So these are the steps to creating a project scope effectively. So next is project scope verification. When we say project scope verification, it is the process of formalizing acceptance of the project scope by the stakeholders. It requires reviewing work products and results to ensure that all were completed correctly and satisfactorily. Scope verification occurs at the end of each project phase and as part of the project closed out process. Project scope verification it is the very difficult to create a good scope statement and WBS per project. It is even more difficult to verify project scope and minimize scope changes. Acceptance is often achieved by customer inspection in the sign-up in key deliverables. So it explains that once the project scope has been defined, it must be verified. Project scope verification is the scope management process that provides a mechanism for ensuring that the project deliverables are completed according to the standards described in the project. So, the primary purpose of the verify scope process is to formally accept completed deliverables and obtain sign-off that the deliverables are satisfactory and meet stakeholders' expectations. Verify scope formalizes the acceptance of the project scope and is primarily concerned with the acceptance of work results in the project. So next is scope change control. When we say scope change, it is where a request is considered to change the agreed scope and objectives of the project to accommodate a need not originally defined to be part of the project. While the change control is the management process for requesting, reviewing, approving, carrying out, and controlling changes to the project's deliverables. Change control is usually applied once the first version of a deliverable has been completed and agreed. So, the purpose of scope change management processes is to help manage, control, and document the inevitable changes that will occur to your projects. Scope change control is concerned with influencing the factors which create scope changes to ensure that scope changes are beneficial, determining that the scope change has occurred, managing the actual changes when and if they occur. So, scope control involves controlling changes to the project scope. The goals of scope control are to influence the factors that cause scope changes, where a request is considered to change the agreed scope and objectives of the project to accommodate a need not originally defined to be part of the project. So, bear in mind that sometimes stakeholders want something different what they had requested during initiation. But not all change is equal in the project. Some changes happen to you, yet others are requested. Whatever the change, it must be managed and analyzed, then accepted or rejected. If the change is accepted, that it must be responded, which opens a whole new set of procedures to make sure you stay on track and within a budget because things will change in a project. To make sure those changes are necessary and don't impact cost, scope, and time, you need to know the change in the project. So that's the end of my topic. Hopefully you get some better informative knowledge to my discussion. Thank you.